Welcome back to Boilers in the Stands. I'm your host, Joe Jackson. Joining me is my co-host, Craig Bowers. We are previewing Purdue versus Northern Kentucky, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, Friday, November 8th is the game. It is on Big Ten Plus, one of the few games Purdue has on Big Ten Plus this season. But going to go through a bit of a preview, go through a bit of a scouting report on Northern Kentucky, and then also talk through some things that we are hoping to see from Purdue's end. We'll start with brief overview of Northern Kentucky. They played one game. They lost at Florida State 74-62. They are another team that is able to force a lot of turnovers. That's kind of been their motto the past few years of forcing turnovers, being very defensive minded, comfortable slowing the game down and grinding it out. And they play a funky defense that's like a zone, but not a zone, and it's man, but it's not man. And we'll talk more brief about that in a minute. But Craig, I'll throw it to you, I guess. What kind of stands out from Northern Kentucky for you?
Really just defensively. They grind. And like you said, want to drag things out. I think last year they were one of the best teams in 2024 in terms of possession length on defense, at like 18.4. So they put a lot of pressure on you and try to turn the ball over, but they do it in a very different way than what we saw in the last game. Like you said, it feels like a zone, but it's It's not really call it a zone. They kind of hand off back and forth players and don't switch it kind of like a normal team that would switch everything. So it looks and feels more like a zone, but it's active. It's really active up top. They get in the lanes and they force some turnovers. So I think it's going to be a really interesting challenge right after facing a team that was top 20 in steals the year before and wants to create a lot of turnovers. For them to face a defense that has the same end goal in mind, but approaches it in an entirely different way.
Yeah, it's the way I'm going to describe it is like it morphs between a 2-3 and a 3-2. And then at times it also just goes into full on man-to-man. And it is unique and it's interesting, and that makes it hard to game plan against, right? You have to basically apply different principles in different sets. Now, I know Painter is big on just kind of running your stuff regardless of man or zone. You obviously tweak it a bit, but staying with what you are and getting results from there. Let's go through some of the rotation, though. So I think Northern Kentucky's not a super, super deep team. I think they're going to play generally 7 to 8 guys. I think what they played 7 guys over 20 minutes against Florida State. One guy played 8 and 2 played another minute. So basically 7 to 8 man rotation. Going through a little bit, Dan Garrigzer, 6'4", 180 pound. He's kind of their point guard from what it seemed like. Not an elite 3-point shooter, but athletic, wants to drive, get downhill. Josh Dilling is 6'4", 190. He's going to shoot the ball. He's going to shoot the ball. He is going to shoot the ball. And Purdue has to know where he is at all times. He put up 11 threes against Florida State. He only shot 2 for 11, but he shot 45% from 3 last year. And Sam Vincent, I'll throw in Sam Vincent and then we'll stop for a sec. 6'5", 205. Another guy isn't a true point guard, can handle the ball though, isn't too much of a shooter, but very, very, very active defender. He is one of the leaders of that defense. I'll stop there and throw it to you, Craig. Anything kind of stand out between their kind of guard/small wing room?
Yeah, they've all got some size. They're 6'4", 6'4", 6'5". Not what I would call necessarily super built dudes, but they all got some length to them up there. I thought it was, just watching that Florida State game, which as I was watching that, I was like, man, it's impossible to tell, like, offensively what a team is against Florida State, just because, we know Purdue played Florida State what felt like, like Marquette's the new Florida State. It felt like we played them for about 5 or 6 years in a row in one stretch, and they will turn you over. So they mucked it up, and it made it a little bit hard to tell exactly what maybe Northern Kentucky could do offensively against a team like us that isn't going to pressure the ball near as much. But I guess 2 things stood out to me. Garrigzer. I'm having trouble with that last name, man. Garrigzer. All right, whatever. We're just going to move on from there. Okay, Joe. I'm going to call him Dan from now on.
There you go.
he struggled really quickly against Florida State. And then it really seemed like Vincent brought the ball up more the rest of the game than he did after like an initial 6-7 minute stretch or so. So it seems like really either one of those guys can play point for him when they want him to. But I mean, the main thing that jumps out to me is that Josh Dilling's a scorer. He's scored over 35 in a game in his career at one point in time. He's going to put them up. And while he put up 11 threes, he was the leading scorer for their team on that game with how many points was it? He had 18 points in that game, and he only hit 2 threes. So he can score in other ways. He got to the free throw line. I think he shot 6 free throws. So he can create and he can get downhill a little bit. And if you can do that against a Florida State team that pressures like that, then you've got some ability to do that.
Yeah, and he's going to be, I think, offensively or defensively for Purdue, he's the main guy on the perimeter that you just have to focus on. You cannot let him leave. And I'm interested to see what Purdue does matchup-wise, where Dilling is probably the go-to guy for scoring, but there's going to be other guys that bring up the ball, like you said, Vincent, Garrick Zer, both of them will at times. So, like, who does Jakari get? Is it going to be Vincent and pressure the ball? Do they put Braden on Dilling and just have him chase him around? But Dilling also can create on ball. It's an interesting matchup, one that I think Purdue should be able to handle, but still going to be fun to see how they do that. So the two bigs, Trey Robinson and Keon Itajiri, 6'7", 220 for Robinson, 6'9", 220 for Keon. Robinson's probably, if Dilling's the go-to guy on the perimeter, Robinson's the go-to guy in the interior. He will shoot from the perimeter, 30% career three-point shooter. He's going to play out on the perimeter definitely a lot more, try to drive, try to get downhill, solid rebounder, and just a good athletic defender in the zone. I think somebody that, guy like Braden Smith's going to just have to be aware where he's at in the passing lanes. And Keon's not really a high usage, not a shooter at all, but he's a very physical player, solid rim protector overall, mainly just roller, offensive rebounder, like kind of your stereotypical junkyard big, I guess is what I'm going to go with. Anything stand out between those two to you?
Well, and let's go ahead and throw Chilombo in there as a front court player too, because he got quite a few minutes in that Florida State game as well. At 6'9", 215. To me, he's the closest thing they have to a true center. In terms of size, I mean, he's only 6'9", but to me, he's the closest thing. At least to my eye, watching that Florida State game. So, I mean, I thought Robinson in that Florida State game looked good in some early minutes. That dude's built like he's rugged. He's got some physicality to him. I'm assuming that's going to be a TKR matchup in this game. But he's got some ability to use his physicality and get to the rim, score around the rim. I thought his shot looked broke, and maybe it was just the pressure, but I would not be worried about him shooting outside. I know he's 30% career three-point shooter, but I'd sure make him show it before I worried about it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Especially with TKR on him, I think Robinson's probably a bit faster. You live with the shot. I want to point out, Chilombo played 1 minute against FSU. He doesn't really play much. I only put him on here just because he's 6'9".
I got the two guys switched up.
Yeah, you might be thinking of LJ Wells, 6'8", 205. He's kind of their backup forward big. Played 24 minutes. He can shoot low volume. Has knocked down some threes. He's going to post a little bit. He's going to be on the roll a little bit, space some. Like I said, I think their starting five is going to be the main driver of what they want to do, though.
Yeah, I definitely just messed that up. I was trying to remember the numbers. I was watching the game while I was driving home, man. It's been a busy few days. Don't ever do that. Don't watch anything while you're driving. But just trying to get it in to lead up to this preview. But I don't think from a low post presence, there's just a lot there. I think it's a game where if R5 is Daniel Jacobson starting, I think this is a game where he can hold up pretty well, because I don't think it's a ton of physicality against him down low, and he can use his long reach and his height as a shot blocker down there.
Yep. You want to jump to Purdue side?
What about Pettis, though? Because I thought he looked good in that Florida State game, especially. I think he started the second half when they came back out.
Yeah, he might. If he played 28 minutes, that's a good shout out. He's a guy that does a little bit of everything, I think. Can score the ball, will shoot from the perimeter, can get downhill, will rebound, will facilitate a little bit. Yeah, he probably will play a good bit. 6'3", 185. They have nobody shorter than 6'3". But he's a guy that, active defender in that zone or not zone, whatever you want to call it. Another guy that's just like can handle the ball, but maybe isn't like a true point guard.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, he was by far and away their most physical guard. He's built a lot like Jakari to me, just in terms of his height and his physical build. And like you said, I thought he was a real physical defender. And to me, it looked like he was getting minutes in that game, especially over it. When they kind of switched to Vincent being the point guard and Dan going to the bench, it looked like he was getting minutes over him just to provide some physicality and match Florida State's physicality. So, yeah, I think he's going to be interesting when he is in the game, just as a matchup as a defender. I'd love to see him and Jakari on each other for a little while, just to see how that turns out.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's switch to Purdue a little bit. As you watch this defense and how they want to play, how do you see Purdue attacking them?
I think it's going to start with 3-point shooting. It's not that I don't think Northern Kentucky in general, they allow a good amount of threes, and Purdue should be able to get them. Braden Smith has to take care of the ball. So I think it starts out there. And then from there, I just don't think they have the size to put on TKR. And so can Purdue scheme ways for TKR to get the ball at the 15 to 10 foot mark and go to work, right? What does a post up look like against this kind of defense where it's morphing in between zone and man? And will they trap? Will they not? Those feel, I guess that could be the answer for probably a lot of Purdue games, but it really does feel like 3-point shooting has to be there. And then TKR has to get going, being kind of in the middle of the zone, maybe even a facilitator at times where you just dump it to him at the free throw line and you let the defense either collapse and TKR kicks out, or if they don't collapse, now TKR is going one-on-one against a big. It's just always weird. It's always weird playing a zone in general. And now this is even more of a junk type defense. And at times it's just simply you just have to find the pockets and you have to find the holes and be able to attack them. I could see this being a little bit more of a CJ Cox-Colvin game, just given the shooting. I don't think Northern Kentucky is overly athletic, especially comparative to Corpus Christi. So this feels like a game that Cox or Colvin could kind of get some more run, especially if they're knocking down shots to me. What about you? Anything stand out in terms of what you're thinking Purdue can do to attack?
Yeah, just beyond what you said, it seems like there's zone that's not a zone. As the ball would move around, especially if a Florida State player would kind of take a couple of dribbles in, that they really jump to the ball. And there was a lot of times then Florida State would swing it, and that guy would have an open driving lane to get into the paint. So I think there's some opportunity, especially with what Braden's going to do, that he's going to be able to probe a little bit. And then if he just swings to Lawyer, swings to Colvin, swings to Jakari or CJ, I think there's opportunity then to drive and get downhill. And like you said, they're higher ranked on KenPom than Texas A&M Corpus Christi. We know matchups are different, and that only means so much when you get to a certain point on KenPom and that type of thing. But I think this is a game where, by and large, our guards have the athletic advantage and can take people off the bounce.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think especially early KenPom rankings, they're not always accurate, generally aren't, and they're going to change a little bit over time. I think Corpus Christi is just a worse matchup for Purdue than Northern Kentucky. If Purdue plays like how they did against Corpus Christi, if they play like that against Northern Kentucky, then that's when some slight concern really starts setting in, I think, for this team for me, of this feels like a game that Purdue should just be able to put away, and put away kind of early. I don't think offensively Northern Kentucky can do a lot. You have to stay attached to Dilling. You have to not let Robinson and some of these, Vincent and these guys be able to completely drive. But at the same time, whether it's Jacobson, Berg, whoever is in at the big spot, I think that they should be in a better spots to be able to protect the rim. Unless Northern Kentucky could go crazy small, I guess. and then they might have more of a stretch five. But Jacobson, Berg especially, shouldn't be pulled away from the rim all that much. To me, this just feels like a game that Purdue has. Obviously, they have the clear advantage on both sides, but just even matchup wise, it leans Purdue for me. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, definitely. And I think too, just defensively compared to the last game, we talked about this team not being as athletic. Really, I think Pettis is the only one that I would call a little bit more on the athletic side. I think defensively, Purdue's going to do better just about keeping on the perimeter, keeping them out of the paint, keeping them from getting a step. I think they should be able to match up a lot easier than the previous game. So I'm looking to see that, especially what CJ and Jakari can do. Like, can they, now that we're past that first real game, we've heard so much about them as defenders, and we saw flashes of it, right? Just what they can do man on man. We saw them pick some pockets, but what do they do in this game as they hit their second game? Just more from a team defense and a rotation standpoint, are they taking steps forward? I think they will, and I think it'll showcase. And again, it was Florida State, and they muck up every game, but it looks like this offense can really bog down and get stagnant, unless and then Dilling would just kind of have to go create and try to make something out of nothing. So interested to see that. I think it's a good matchup for Purdue. I think it'll be a really much better defensive performance.
Yep, and I think it has to be. You have to start, like you said, start seeing some of these improvements that we are going to give, I think, or people understand, right? It's going to take time for these freshmen, but you do have to start seeing it. This should be a game that they do it. Do you have anything else covering this game?
What are you looking to see out of the 5 spot?
Big thing is going to be rim protection. Like, I think they should be in much, much better spots. Like, this should not be a game where Jacobson and Berg, especially Burgess, I'll throw in with them, they shouldn't be pulled out. They should be able to play at the rim more. And so just getting there first, obviously, is, I think, stylistically, you just are more comfortable with him out on the perimeter if needed. But that, and then offensively, it's going to be rebounding. Like, can somebody attack the offensive glass? This feels like a game where they should be able to do that. I would expect TKR obviously to be a big part of that as well. But the default answer is just like somebody to emerge. Mm-hmm. And maybe Jacobson, he had a solid game. Can he build on that? Does Burgess start getting a little bit more comfortable in his spot minutes? How many first minutes does First even get? It's, I guess the overall thing though is just, who does somebody actually start emerging?
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think this is a Burgess matchup for me. I think this is there might be some Purdue fans after this game too. They're like, why did we not redshirt Burgess again? I think that's coming. I think when we play a team that has a super physical center, I think there's a good chance we see more Burgess minutes there, just because that dude's built and he can kind of withstand the physicality a little bit better down low than maybe some other guys that we've got playing that spot. But I think in this game you'll see Jacobson's size, Jacobson's athleticism at use in a high minute matchup. And I'm hoping to see a lot of minutes for him, to see him get comfortable out there.
Yeah, no, it's very fair. Anything else?
No, I think that pretty much sums it up. Should be a good game. Should be another good test, at least early on. And hope to see Purdue take some strides forward.
Yeah. Shout out Purdue. Like, I know they always do, but they really just do a good job of non-con scheduling. Obviously, some of the top tier opponents, Alabama, Marquette, but also just these games. It's like these teams generally have some sort of something that's like challenges Purdue, whether it be turnovers or elite ball movement, something like that. So we will be live after the game, Northern Kentucky, shortly after the final buzzer sounds. We'll also try to get pressers up onto the YouTube channel as well. If you made it this far and you aren't already, can you please subscribe, turn on bell notifications, because then you'll get notified as soon as we go live post-game. Hit the like button while you're here. That's Kraig Bowers. I'm Joe Jackson. We will catch you all Friday after Purdue versus Northern Kentucky, 7 p.m. Eastern time on Big Ten Network.